I don't know. I think the, the people running this empire are getting a little bit arrogant. I mean, there are cultural underpinnings to the empire itself that are very necessary, having to do with, tolerance and the free exchange of ideas. I mean, these are cultural values that don't just occur to people because they're scientists. I mean, they're socially inherited and have to be socialized into people.
What's so great about, when you say tolerance, you mean we should teach our kids that all ideas are equally good?
No,
I don't.
No.
I think
critical thinking is
It would be nice to prevent violence, but I don't think that we should tolerate ideas in the sense that it's okay. Let that poor person have his brain eaten by that set of ideas. It offends me a little. I'm not tolerant.
Well, other people would say that the imposition of American or Western ideals of critical thinking is an imposition.
But it's a disease, yes. It's not exactly an imposition. It's that most cultures, although they've defended themselves against other bad theological ideas, haven't found a way to defend themselves against critical thinking very well, and they're terrified. More power to...
And when you talk, as we're speaking, the culture's changing, and it's not going to be changed by the people sitting here.
Well,
it's being
don't be
changed
sure.
by the youngsters out there.
That division, I think, between sort of high culture and popular culture is something that is a significant change, in that culture is really popular culture now, and all of the kinds of things.
Is popular culture more homogeneous across the world?
No, I think it's more fragmented in many ways, but it is more extensive geographically, in that a young person in China has more in common with a young person in the United States than they have with their grandparents in either
that's
culture.
the homogeneity, right.
But it's not necessarily homogeneous. There's incredible diversity within that, and I think that that's a confusion, that a person within any environment today has far more to choose from than a similarly located person would have had 100 years ago. So it's not homogeneous. I mean, I can go out in the evening and I can choose from a Chinese restaurant, an Italian restaurant, a fast food place. I have many more choices about what to eat.
Is homogeneous. I mean, you have the ability to make those choices just like the other people do. It's the same mental way of thinking, as opposed to a rigorous...
The specific choices, but usually when people speak about homogeneous, I think they think of it as a very narrow, that you just have an opportunity to eat fast foods, for instance, or a particular kind of music.
And the fast foods is no joke. If I want to eat in 5 minutes instead of an hour, well, the fact that McDonald's is all over the world doesn't mean it's a cultural imposition. It means it's a great blessing in time. And lots of people don't want their time wasted by their culture or whatever it is, and so they eat that.
And that's why it's welcomed.
Yeah.
Well,
it is
Frank, do you
embraced.
see it always welcomed? What do you see in other societies?
Well,
particularly Asian.
Well, I just think that, there are shared values that are, that in a way constitute communities that allow people to relate to each other. And these are very hard to dislodge whatever outsiders think of them. And it's something that's going to be very tenacious even, 100 years from now.
And do you think that's good or bad?
Well, it's hard to, it's such an inherent part of the way humans are constituted.
Well, I think
it's very hard to...
But some people feel that should be
in a culture,
uprooted.
they relate to each other to the extent that they think the same thoughts and don't have to think. So I don't regard that as a virtue. Maybe lazy humans like it, but I would like to teach them not to be lazy.
Well, let's look 100 years into the future and ask ourselves, if we have more comfort, which I think we definitely will, what is the happiness scale of people? If we would measure a statistical analysis of people's happiness on a scale of 1 today, and just assume that today is 5, what will people's happiness be 100 years from now with all this comfort and technology? Frank?
Well, if it's 5 today, it'll be 5 in 100 years.
Marvin?
Well, I want people to be very unhappy that they don't understand cosmic string theory or something. I hate happiness because that means that you're not interested in anything.
So you would have society be less, but that would make you more.
Yes, if we can get happiness down to 1,
That would
then
make you a 10.
everybody will be very busy and happy in a less superficial sense.
Okay. Greg?
I vote for 6, simply because we're going to get a little bit richer. People tend to be happier when at least the basic needs are met. But we always return largely to the mean, so a little bit of an improvement.
Greg?
Yeah, I think that there's not necessarily a correlation between people's material welfare and the kinds of things that are possible for them, their material well-being, and their happiness. And judging by the past, people are way better off than they were 100 years ago, and yet they're in many ways unhappier because there's more uncertainty there about life. And I think that if
What's your number? What's your number?
Wow, I'll
Sounds
say
like it's
five.
about-
Sounds like about five.
Sounds like about four to me.
Maybe four.
George?
I'm a number 5, mainly because I have great faith in human beings. And I think human beings do solve their problems.
Yes, the world is changing. You knew that. But now we've heard how deeply technology is transforming society. On a grand scale, it's blurring boundaries among enterprises, institutions, and nations. For individuals, it's empowering people, enhancing our reach and strength. But does the blurring of boundaries promote profits at any cost and erode culture? And does the empowered person replace relationships with self-gratification? Let's be both delighted and apprehensive. For while the short-term benefits of technology are obvious, the long-term risks are not. Sometimes vigilance alone can bring us closer to truth. I'm Robert Kuhn.